The billionaire CEO told his wife, "I don't want you anymore. I'm tired of you." She left shattered in pieces and broken. The crystal chandelier cast fractured light across Olivia Harlow's face as she stood motionless in their penthouse bedroom. 3,000 feet above Manhattan, she watched her husband of 15 years adjust his platinum cufflinks, the ones she'd saved for 6 months to buy him when they were still dreaming instead of arriving. "I've made my decision," Ethan said, his voice carrying the practiced detachment he reserved for corporate takeovers. "This isn't working." Olivia felt her heartbeat falter. "What isn't?" "Us. This marriage." Ethan didn't look at her as he selected a tie from his collection, each one worth more than their entire first apartment's rent. "I'm tired, Olivia." She stepped closer, her reflection in the mirror revealing a woman who had become a stranger in her own home. "Tired of what?" If you're new here, welcome to Cedar Light Love Stories, where emotions come alive and every tale warms the heart. If you believe in love that heals, inspires, and conquers all, you're in the right place. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, because your thoughts and support light up our stories. Let's journey through love together. Ethan finally turned, his eyes cold with finality. "Tired of pretending. Tired of managing your feelings. Tired of watching you cling to some romanticized version of our past instead of embracing what I'm creating." His words landed with surgical precision. "I'm tired of you, Olivia. I don't want this marriage anymore. I don't want you." 5 words, 20 letters. One complete devastation. In the hallway, 8-year-old Lily pressed her small body against the wall, her favorite stuffed rabbit clutched against her chest, eyes wide with the terrible comprehension that children possess when adults think they aren't listening. Have you ever watched someone's world collapse in real time? Have you seen the moment when love transforms into its own funeral? If you have, you'll understand what happened next. If you haven't, I pray you never will. But stay with me because this story matters, not just for Olivia and Ethan, but for anyone who's ever traded authenticity for approval or mistaken accumulation for achievement. If this story resonates with you, if you believe in second chances or need to believe in them, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to Cedar Light Love Stories. Your support helps us share these moments of human truth that remind us what actually matters when everything else falls away. Olivia had first noticed the change 6 months earlier, though its seeds had been planted long before. Their daughter Lily had noticed too, her child's perspective unclouded by adult rationalizations. "Daddy used to laugh more," Lily had whispered just the previous week as Olivia tucked her into bed. "And you used to sing in the kitchen." Simple observations that cut through pretense with devastating accuracy. Now, as Ethan's words hung between them like smoke after an explosion, Olivia felt something final settle in her chest. Not pain but the absence of hope, which hurt more precisely. "I'll be gone tomorrow," she said finally, her decision already crystallizing. "Lily and I both will." Ethan's expression flickered with something like surprise before settling back into detached resignation. "That's probably best." Later, Olivia would wonder if he had expected more resistance, more begging, more desperate attempts to salvage what he had already discarded. But 15 years had taught her when battles were winnable and when survival required retreat. They had met at the community college where Olivia taught art to supplement her studio income. Ethan had been taking night classes, working toward the business degree his parents couldn't afford. He'd sat in the back of her classroom, his questions thoughtful, his ambition palpable even then. "I've never seen anyone approach a canvas the way you do," he told her after the 3rd class, lingering as other students filed out. "Like you're having a conversation with it rather than imposing your will." Olivia smiled, surprised by his perception. "That's exactly what painting is to me, a dialogue between intention and possibility." "I think about business the same way," Ethan admitted, his enthusiasm breaking through his usually reserved demeanor. "Not as conquering markets, but as creating conversations between needs and solutions." Their love grew in humble spaces, the cramped studio apartment where Olivia painted, while Ethan drafted business plans, the 24-hour diner where they shared midnight pancakes and audacious dreams, the city park bench where he proposed. With a ring so modest, it made their promises shine brighter by comparison. "We don't have much," he'd said, his hands trembling slightly as he held the small diamond. But we'll build something meaningful together, I promise. And they did build together. Olivia sold paintings to pay for Ethan's graduate applications. She worked double shifts at the gallery when he needed capital for his first startup. When that venture failed, she held him through nights of doubt, whispering courage into his darkness. "This isn't failure," she insisted as he stared at their dwindling bank account. "It's research. Now you know 47 approaches that won't work, which means you're 47 steps closer to what will." When his second attempt gained traction, she managed their household with careful economy, stretching each dollar to create the illusion of stability for investors who visited. She learned to transform thrift store finds into outfits that looked intentional rather than necessary, to prepare meals that appeared abundant despite their cost, to create the impression of success before it materialized. Their small apartment became a stage set for Ethan's potential, with Olivia as both designer and supporting actress. She played her role without resentment, believing fully in the narrative they were co-creating. One day, Ethan promised late one night, his voice soft against her hair, "You'll have a studio with northern light and windows that reach from floor to ceiling. You'll paint without worrying about rent or groceries. I'll make sure of it." When Lily arrived, unexpected but immediately beloved, Olivia rearranged her dreams to accommodate their daughter's needs and Ethan's accelerating career. She converted her painting corner into a nursery, traded exhibitions for illustrations she could create during nap times, and pretended the sacrifice didn't ache. "I'll get back to serious painting when she's older," she told her former professor who called with an exhibition opportunity. "Right now, my family needs stability more than the art world needs another show." By the time Lily was 3, Ethan's company had secured its first major contract. By the time she was 5, they had moved to a larger apartment in a better neighborhood. And by her 7th birthday, Ethan's company went public, transforming theoretical wealth into staggering reality. They had established the patterns that would eventually fracture them long before success arrived to magnify every crack. Ethan built empires. Olivia built home. He conquered markets. She nurtured their child. He accumulated. She sustained. Neither recognized how the division of purpose was slowly dividing them. Marcus Vega entered their lives like an invasive species, beautiful, exotic, and ultimately destructive to the ecosystem he invaded. As the newest board member of Ethan's company, he brought connections to elite circles Ethan had only observed from afar. "Your husband is extraordinary," Marcus told Olivia at their first company gala, his assessment, delivered with such authority that it sounded like permission was being granted. "We're going to help him achieve his full potential." As though Olivia had never been part of the equation, she wore a vintage dress that night, carefully altered to appear timeless rather than secondhand. Standing among women draped in current season designer wear, she felt her difference, acutely, but held her ground with the quiet dignity that had always been her strength. "Olivia teaches art," Ethan explained when Marcus inquired about her profession. "Or she did, before Lily." "How quaint," Marcus replied, the word floating between compliment and dismissal. "The artist and the entrepreneur. Quite the complementary pairing." Something in his tone suggested complementary wasn't quite the word he meant. The transformation happened gradually, then suddenly, like bankruptcy or falling in love. Ethan started working later, his arrivals home marked by distraction rather than presence. He developed new vocabulary, referencing concepts and people with casual familiarity that excluded Olivia from conversations. The carried interest discussion at Henderson's was fascinating. He mentioned over a dinner Olivia had spent hours preparing. "The regulatory implications alone could restructure our entire approach to the Singapore expansion." When she asked him to explain, his impatience flickered briefly before he answered, with oversimplified terms that made her feel both ignorant and patronized. His clothes became statements rather than coverings, each garment selected for the message it communicated about status and belonging. The man who once owned 3 nearly identical blue shirts now distinguished between bespoke and made to measure, as though the difference were fundamental rather than technical. Most concerning were the silences, the moments when Ethan would look at Olivia in social settings with something approaching embarrassment. The first time she noticed it, at a charity auction where her vintage dress stood out among designer gowns like honesty and politics, she dismissed it as her insecurity. By the fourth time, during a dinner with Marcus where her opinion on sustainable business practices was met with Ethan's wincing interruption, she understood that her husband was editing her out of his narrative. "I thought what Mom said was interesting," Lily commented later that night as Ethan tucked her into bed, "about how businesses should help communities, not just make money." Ethan smoothed her blanket, avoiding his daughter's direct gaze. "Business is complicated, sweetheart. Sometimes adults have different perspectives on how things work. But isn't Mom smart about people stuff?" Lily persisted. "That's what you always used to say." The used to hung in the air like an indictment. "Of course she is," Ethan replied, his tone suggesting the conversation was over. "Now, what story should we read tonight?" Lily's perception remained unclouded by adult rationalizations. The following morning, as Olivia braided her hair for school, she asked the question that had been forming in her 8-year-old mind: "Why does Daddy look at his phone when you're talking?" Olivia's hands stilled momentarily before resuming their work. "He's very busy with important work." "Are we not important work?" Lily persisted, her reflection in the mirror showing a furrow between her brows that shouldn't exist on a child's face. Olivia had no answer that wouldn't break something precious in her daughter's understanding of the world. If this story is resonating with you, if you've ever felt yourself becoming invisible in someone else's new narrative, take a moment to like this video and share your thoughts in the comments. Sometimes the most healing thing we can do is acknowledge that our experiences, even painful ones, are shared by others walking similar paths. Their penthouse became a museum showcasing Ethan's transformation, minimalist furniture that privileged aesthetics over comfort. Artwork selected for investment potential rather than emotional resonance. Spaces designed to impress rather than embrace. Olivia moved through rooms that no longer accommodated her presence, feeling increasingly like an artifact from Ethan's previous incarnation. Marcus became a regular presence, arriving with bottles of wine too expensive to actually enjoy and opinions delivered with such conviction they masqueraded as facts. He orchestrated situations that highlighted the growing disparity between Ethan's trajectory and Olivia's stagnation. "Your wife's quite traditional, isn't she?" he observed after a dinner where Olivia had mentioned saving wrapping paper from Lily's birthday gifts. The pause before traditional carried the weight of every dismissal Olivia had ever experienced. Ethan didn't defend her. His silence was agreement. Later that week, Ethan suggested Olivia might be more comfortable skipping the leadership retreat in Aspen. "The discussions will be highly technical," he explained, not meeting her eyes. "And someone should stay with Lily anyway." "We could bring her," Olivia countered. "She's never seen mountains. It's not that kind of event." His tone closed the conversation with finality that felt like a door being locked from the inside. When Ethan returned from Aspen, he brought Lily a snow globe and Olivia a distance she couldn't cross. In their bedroom that night, Olivia reached for him, her touch a question about whether bridges could still be built between their separate shores. Ethan answered by turning away, his back a wall more impenetrable than the silence that followed. Their 9th anniversary arrived on a Tuesday that Ethan had forgotten and Olivia had been planning for weeks. She arranged for Lily to stay with a friend, prepared Ethan's favorite meal, the simple pasta they'd lived on during lean years, and wore the blue dress from their first real date. By 9 o'clock, the candles had burned low, the food had cooled, and Olivia's messages remained unanswered. When Ethan finally arrived past midnight, alcohol clinging to his breath and excuses ready on his tongue, Olivia was still sitting at their dining table, the evidence of her hope spread before her like an indictment. "There was an important client dinner," he began, the explanation practiced. "Marcus thought, it's our anniversary." Olivia's voice emerged steady despite the trembling in her hands. Recognition flickered briefly across Ethan's face, before being replaced with defensive irritation. "You should have put it on my calendar. You know how busy things are right now." "I did put it on your calendar. I've reminded you 3 times this month." Then clearly it wasn't a priority. The words escaped before he could contain them, their cruelty hanging between them like smoke after an explosion. Olivia stood slowly. "When did I stop being a priority, Ethan? When exactly did I become something you needed to overcome, rather than the person who held you when overcoming seemed impossible?" "Don't be dramatic. I'm building something important." "And I'm what? The embarrassing footnote to your success story?" The wife who doesn't understand which fork to use or which opinions are acceptable in your new world? You don't understand how this works, Ethan insisted, frustration sharpening his tone. Image matters. Perception matters. The way you present yourself reflects on me, on my company. The way I present myself? Olivia repeated, disbelief coloring her words. I've presented myself exactly as I am since the day we met. You're the one who's become unrecognizable. People evolve, Olivia. I've grown. I've adapted to a level you seem unwilling to reach. Unwilling? I've adapted to everything. Moving whenever your business needed, rearranging my career around Lily, learning to exist in spaces designed to make me feel inadequate. I've bent until breaking, while you've simply walked away. Ethan's laugh was hollow. This is exactly what I mean. This victimhood narrative. This simplicity that might have been charming when we had nothing but becomes limiting when we're trying to build something significant. The only thing significant we were ever supposed to build was a life together, Olivia whispered. Everything else was just details. Well, maybe I want more than details now. Ethan's voice had gone cold. Maybe I want a partner who enhances my position, rather than reminding everyone where I started. In the doorway, Lily stood silent in her pajamas, having woken to the sound of raised voices. Neither parent noticed her, this small witness absorbing every word, her understanding incomplete, but her heart perfectly capable of recognizing destruction when she saw it. Olivia felt something final settle in her chest. What are you saying? I'm saying, I'm tired of this. Tired of managing your feelings. Tired of watching you cling to some romanticized version of our past, instead of embracing what I'm creating. He loosened his tie with sharp movements. I'm tired of you, Olivia. I don't want this marriage anymore. I don't want you. In the silence that followed, Olivia heard Lily's voice from months earlier. Daddy used to laugh more. And you used to sing in the kitchen. I'll be gone tomorrow, she said finally, her decision already crystallizing. Lily and I both will. Ethan's expression flickered with something like surprise, before settling back into detached resignation. That's probably best. It was only as Olivia turned to leave that she saw Lily in the doorway, tears streaming silently down her face. The child didn't make a sound, her grief already shaped by the understanding that some emotions weren't welcome in this new version of their family. Oh, Lily, Olivia breathed, crossing to her daughter and kneeling to her level. You should be in bed, sweetheart. Are we leaving? Lily asked, her voice small but steady. Ethan stepped forward, suddenly aware of his daughter's presence. Lily, this is grown-up talk. You shouldn't. Yes, Olivia interrupted, looking directly into her daughter's eyes. We are. And I need you to know that it's not because of anything you did. It's because sometimes grown-ups need space to remember important things. Lily nodded with the solemn understanding that children often possess when adults are falling apart. Is it because Daddy doesn't laugh anymore? Because you don't sing in the kitchen? The simplicity of her assessment struck both parents into silence. In that moment, Ethan seemed to glimpse, however briefly, the reality of what he was destroying, but the insight vanished as quickly as it had appeared. Let's get you back to bed, Olivia said gently, taking Lily's hand. We'll talk more in the morning. As they walked away, Lily glanced back at her father. Good night, Daddy. I hope you remember how to laugh soon. Ethan stood motionless in their dining room, surrounded by the ruins of an anniversary that would never be recovered, understanding on some level that he had just destroyed the only thing that ever truly mattered. Olivia moved through their penthouse in pre-dawn stillness, gathering essentials with the efficiency of someone who had been rehearsing this exit in her mind for months. Lily slept soundly in her room, unaware that her world was being dismantled and repacked into 2 suitcases and a backpack. In the kitchen, Olivia opened the antique wooden box where she kept family recipes and mementos. She removed the contents methodically. The fortune from their first date, dried flowers. From her wedding bouquet, Lily's hospital bracelet, the key to their first apartment. These artifacts of their shared history seemed to vibrate with meaning that Ethan had forgotten how to recognize. She arranged them carefully on the dining table, adding her wedding ring as the final piece. The ring felt heavier than it should, as though it had absorbed all the weight of their deterioration. She had worn it every day since he slipped it on her finger, even after everything started breaking, because removing it felt like admitting defeat. But defeat had already happened. Keeping the ring on now was just refusing to acknowledge what everyone else could see. Beside this display of memories, she placed a sealed envelope containing words Ethan wouldn't understand until much later, if ever. Waking Lily was the hardest part, her sleepy confusion giving way to solemn understanding that broke Olivia's heart, all over again. "Are we going on an adventure?" Lily asked, clutching the stuffed rabbit she'd had since infancy. "Yes, sweetheart. Just you and me for a while. Is Daddy coming later?" Olivia hesitated, unwilling to lie but unable to deliver the full complicated truth. "Not right away. He needs to stay for work." "Is it because he doesn't laugh anymore?" Lily's perception was devastating. "It's because sometimes grown-ups need space to remember important things," Olivia answered carefully. "And sometimes, they can only remember when something is missing." As Lily dressed and packed her favorite books and toys, Olivia caught her studying the family photographs on her nightstand. "Can I take this one?" Lily asked, holding up a frame containing a picture from before, Ethan with his arm around Olivia, his smile reaching his eyes, Lily between them wearing an expression of complete security. "Of course," Olivia replied, her voice steady despite the ache in her chest. "That's a good memory to keep." They left as morning light began transforming the city, Lily's small hand in Olivia's as they stepped into the elevator that would carry them away from the life Ethan had decided they no longer fit within. In her backpack, Lily carried the photograph of their family intact, the only piece of Ethan that Olivia had allowed her daughter to bring into their uncertain future. If this story has moved you, if it's made you think about the true foundations of success and happiness, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your engagement helps us continue sharing stories that remind us all what truly matters beyond material wealth and status. In the comments below, share your thoughts on what success really means to you. Is it financial achievement or something more fundamental? Ethan discovered their absence when he returned home the following evening. Having spent the night at his club to avoid the aftermath of their argument, the penthouse felt immediately different, emptier in ways that transcended physical absence. He found the wooden box first, recognizing it instantly as something Olivia treasured. The arranged mementos initially confused him, their significance requiring translation. His heart was rusty at performing. But as understanding dawned, something shifted in his chest, the first tremor of comprehension that would eventually crack his carefully constructed facade. Seeing Olivia's wedding ring among the artifacts hit him with physical force, driving the air from his lungs. He picked it up carefully, the metal still warm as though it had absorbed and retained something essential from her touch. The envelope contained a letter, written in Olivia's distinctive handwriting. "I'm not leaving because I stopped loving you. I'm leaving because I refuse to stay where love has become insufficient currency for respect. What you've built means nothing if it required destroying the foundation we laid together. Success without love is just expensive loneliness. Lily deserves to see her mother valued, not tolerated. She deserves to see her father present, not just providing. I hope someday you remember the man who saw beauty in simplicity, who measured worth in connection rather than acquisition. He was worth loving. I hope he's still there somewhere beneath the stranger you've become." He read the letter 3 times, each reading revealing new layers of what he had systematically destroyed. The phrase "expensive loneliness" lingered, echoing in spaces that suddenly felt cavernous rather than impressive. Ethan moved through their home, touching things Olivia and Lily had touched. Lily's drawings magnetized to the refrigerator. Olivia's worn paperback left open on their bed, a half-finished cup of tea she'd abandoned during their argument. Each item carried weight he hadn't noticed when they were simply part of his landscape. He called Olivia's phone, unsurprised when it went straight to voicemail. He sent messages that showed as delivered, but remained unanswered. By midnight, panic had replaced disbelief. By dawn, he understood with sickening clarity that they were truly gone, not temporarily, not strategically, but completely. The following days dissolved into desperate searching. Ethan hired investigators, contacted Olivia's friends, visited her mother's home in Connecticut, where he was met with contempt rather than information. "You don't deserve to know where they are," Mrs. Abernathy informed him. Her expression hardened by months of watching her daughter's light dim. "You traded something authentic for something hollow, and now you're discovering that hollow things echo with your own emptiness." Elena, Olivia's closest friend offered only, "She's safe. Lily's safe. They're rebuilding what you spent years tearing down." Marcus, predictably, suggested this was for the best. Clean break. Start fresh with someone who fits your current trajectory. The words that once would have seemed wise now rang false, their hollowness apparent when held against the truth in Olivia's letter. Ethan found himself increasingly unable to occupy the spaces Marcus curated, to speak the language of status and acquisition, to value the approval of people who measured worth in portfolio size. "You seem distracted lately," Marcus commented during a board meeting where Ethan had barely contributed. "Everything all right?" "My wife left me and took our daughter," Ethan replied flatly, the bluntness of his statement silencing the room. "So no, everything is not all right." Marcus cleared his throat. "These things happen. Transitions are always difficult. But honestly, this could be an opportunity. Olivia was lovely, but she never quite fit, did she? This frees you to find someone more aligned with your current position." Ethan stared at him, suddenly seeing with perfect clarity the poison this man had been feeding him for months. "More aligned with my position? Like someone who values status over substance? Who measures worth in acquisitions rather than character?" "Well, yes," Marcus replied, unperturbed by Ethan's tone. "Someone who understands and enhances your brand rather than contradicting it. It's not personal, just practical." "My wife and daughter aren't brand elements," Ethan said quietly, the realization settling in his chest with crushing weight. "They're the only real things I had." 2 months after Olivia and Lily's departure, Ethan cut ties with Marcus completely, recognizing too late how the man had watered seeds of insecurity until they grew tall enough to block Ethan's view of what actually mattered. "You're making a mistake," Marcus warned during their final conversation. "Walking away from me means walking away from everything we've built." "Good," Ethan responded with clarity that felt like waking from prolonged sedation. "If what we've built required me to destroy the only people who ever truly loved me, I don't want it." The boardroom fell silent as Ethan gathered his papers and walked out, leaving Marcus and the other executives exchanging uncomfortable glances. For the first time in years, Ethan was acting without calculating the professional consequences, driven by something more fundamental than strategic advantage. 6 months passed. Ethan existed rather than lived, maintaining his company but withdrawing from the social circles that had once seemed crucial. He sold the penthouse, unable to bear its emptiness, moving instead to a modest brownstone, reminiscent of where he and Olivia had lived before success rewrote their story. Each room in his new home remained sparsely furnished, not from aesthetic choice as before, but because accumulation had lost its meaning. The wooden box containing Olivia's wedding ring and letter sat on his bedside table. The first thing he saw each morning, and the last thing he touched each night. His routine altered beyond recognition. Board meetings were scheduled around therapy appointments rather than the reverse. Weekends, once filled with networking events, now found him volunteering at children's art programs, learning what he had missed while chasing validation from people who would never matter to Lily's happiness. "Why are you here?" asked 10-year-old Miguel during Ethan's 3rd week volunteering. "You don't look like a regular art teacher." Ethan smiled, helping the boy position his paintbrush correctly. "I'm learning something important that I forgot." "What's that?" "That sometimes the most valuable things can't be counted or measured." Ethan gestured toward Miguel's painting. "Like how it feels when you create something that didn't exist before." The boy considered this seriously. "My mom says things don't have to cost money to be worth something." "Your mom sounds very wise," Ethan replied, the ache in his chest now familiar whenever he encountered evidence of parental wisdom he had failed to demonstrate. If this story is resonating with you, if you've ever lost sight of what truly matters while pursuing success, take a moment to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell. These stories remind us that it's never too late to rediscover our authentic priorities, though sometimes the lesson comes at tremendous cost. On a Wednesday morning 6 months after Olivia and Lily's departure, Ethan received an unexpected email from Elena, containing only an address in Vermont and 6 words, "Don't come if you haven't changed." The journey to the small artistic community took 4 hours by car, each mile increasing Ethan's certainty that this pilgrimage was both necessary and possibly futile. He passed through towns progressively smaller and less manicured, until finally arriving at a community that seemed designed around human connection rather than commercial opportunity. The address led to a converted barn studio, surrounded by autumn foliage. So vibrant it seemed unreal after months of metropolitan grayness. A hand-painted sign reading "Community Arts Center" hung above the entrance, and through large windows, Ethan could see a group of children engaged in creative activity. He sat in his car, courage failing him at the crucial moment. What right did he have to disrupt the peace they had built without him? What could he possibly say to justify months of dismissal and cruelty, culminating in rejection so complete it had driven them to rebuild their lives from scratch? Through the windows, he spotted Olivia teaching a group of children, Lily among them. They were creating something colorful and chaotic, their laughter visible in the way their bodies moved with unself-conscious joy. Olivia wore paint-splattered overalls, her hair pulled back simply, her gestures animated as she demonstrated a technique. She looked happy. More importantly, she looked whole, not despite his absence but possibly because of it. Ethan was preparing to leave when Lily glanced out the window and saw him. Her expression, shock giving way to something complicated that included both happiness and fear, dismantled his careful resolve. She spoke to Olivia, pointing, and then Olivia was looking at him too, her face revealing nothing he could interpret from this distance. When they emerged from the studio, Lily ran to him first, launching herself into his arms with force that nearly knocked him over. Her embrace offered forgiveness he hadn't earned, restoration he couldn't have engineered. "You found us," she whispered against his neck, her voice caught between laughter and tears. "I did," he managed, his voice rough with emotion he no longer tried to conceal. "I knew you would," Lily said with a conviction that only children can maintain in the face of adult failure. "I kept telling Mom you'd remember how to laugh." Olivia approached more cautiously, stopping several feet away, the distance between them measured in more than physical space. "Why are you here, Ethan?" she asked, her voice steady but guarded. "Because I finally understood what you were trying to tell me before I drove you away," he said simply. "That success, without connection, is just expensive loneliness. That I traded the only authentic thing in my life for performances that collapsed as soon as I stopped performing." Olivia's expression remained neutral. "Understanding doesn't erase damage. I know. I'm not asking for erasure. I'm not even asking for forgiveness yet." Ethan looked at their daughter, then back to Olivia. "I'm asking for the chance to show you both who I've become since losing you made me confront who I was becoming." "Mom, please," Lily interjected, still clinging to Ethan's hand. "He came all this way. Can't he at least stay for dinner?" Olivia studied her daughter's hopeful face, then Ethan's contrite one. "Dinner only. Then we'll see." The small cottage Olivia and Lily shared sat at the edge of the community, surrounded by gardens. That looked haphazard to untrained eyes, but revealed careful intention upon closer inspection. Inside, the space hummed with evidence of their life without him. Lily's artwork covering walls, books stacked by comfortable chairs, Olivia's paintings in various stages of completion occupying every available surface. "You're painting again," Ethan observed, recognizing in her canvases a freedom that had been absent in her earlier work. "I never stopped being an artist," Olivia replied, the implied remainder of her sentence. "Even when you stopped seeing me as one." Hanging unspoken between them, dinner was simple: vegetable soup and fresh bread from the community bakery. Lily dominated the conversation, filling the awkward spaces with enthusiastic descriptions of their new life, her school, the friends she'd made, the community events that punctuated their weeks. "Everyone here knows everyone," she explained between spoonfuls. "Not like in the city where nobody even looked at each other in the elevator." "Do you miss anything about the city?" Ethan asked carefully. Lily considered this, her expression serious. "I missed you. But not the penthouse. It never felt like ours. This place feels like us." The simple assessment landed with precision that made Ethan wince. Even his child had recognized the inauthenticity of the life he'd constructed. After dinner, when Lily reluctantly went to finish homework, Olivia and Ethan sat on the cottage porch, the evening air carrying the scent of approaching winter. "She looks happy," Ethan said, breaking the silence that had settled between them. "She is. We both are." Olivia's voice carried no cruelty, just certainty. It took months for her to stop asking when you'd come find us. Months for her to understand that sometimes people choose paths that don't include those they once claimed to love. I made the worst mistake of my life, Ethan admitted. I listened to voices that told me success meant something different than what we built together. I confused status with achievement, accumulation with worth. Those aren't just mistakes, Ethan, they're values. And values don't change overnight because consequences finally arrived. You're right, but they can change through sustained recognition and effort. Ethan turned to face her directly. I've spent 6 months in therapy confronting every insecurity that made me vulnerable to Marcus's influence. I've dismantled and rebuilt my company around principles that don't require me to become someone I despise. I've learned to measure success in meaning rather than metrics. That's commendable, Olivia acknowledged. But it doesn't erase the fact that you looked at me, the woman who worked doubles to support your dreams, who documented your successes when you couldn't see them, who loved you when you had nothing but potential, and decided I was somehow insufficient for the life you were building. The truth of her words struck him with physical force. I know, and I can't undo that damage. I can only hope to prove through consistent action over time that I've learned what matters. And what matters, Ethan? Beyond platitudes and revelations, what actually matters? Connection, he answered without hesitation. Not the strategic kind that advances careers, but the authentic kind that makes life worth experiencing. Love that witnesses both beauty and brokenness, without flinching. Presence that transforms ordinary moments into meaning. The courage to remain imperfect together rather than perfecting a performance alone. Olivia was quiet for a long moment. There's a cottage for rent in town, 3-month lease. If you're serious about proving change through action rather than promises, that's where you start. You're offering me a chance to stay nearby? Ethan asked, hope cautiously unfurling. I'm offering Lily the opportunity to reconnect with her father in a controlled environment. I'm offering myself the chance to determine whether your transformation is genuine or just another performance. I'm offering you the opportunity to demonstrate that your priorities have truly shifted. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't reconciliation, but it was possibility. And possibility was more than Ethan deserved. I'll take it, he said simply. If this story speaks to you, if you believe in the power of authentic transformation or have experienced the painful consequences of misplaced priorities, please like this video and share your thoughts in the comments. Sometimes our most important growth comes after our most devastating mistakes. And your experiences might provide hope to others walking similar paths. The small community became Ethan's teacher over the following months. He rented the cottage Olivia suggested, establishing himself without expectation or entitlement. He ran his company remotely, prioritizing presence in his daughter's life over physical presence in corporate headquarters. His integration happened slowly. Each relationship built on authentic contribution rather than purchased influence. He volunteered at Lily's school, using his business knowledge to help the struggling arts program secure sustainable funding. He joined community workdays, learning to build fences and repair roofs alongside people who valued competence over credentials. His interactions with Olivia evolved gradually from cautious civility to tentative collaboration to something approaching friendship. They built new patterns of communication, more honest than before, often uncomfortable but never again false. Lily flourished under the shared attention of both parents, even as she maintained careful watch over their interactions, her child's vigilance born from having witnessed destruction once before. Dad seems different, she told her mother one evening, as Olivia tucked her into bed. He listens when people talk now. And he laughs at real things, not just when important people say something. People can change when they recognize what matters, Olivia replied carefully. Do you think you'll ever love him again? Lily asked with the directness children bring to questions adults carefully avoid. Olivia brushed hair from her daughter's forehead. Love isn't something that disappears, sweetheart. It transforms. Sometimes it becomes something stronger after being broken. Sometimes it becomes something different that serves a new purpose. Like when you break a vase but turn the pieces into a mosaic? Lily suggested. Exactly like that, Olivia agreed, wondering when her child had become so wise. One evening, after Lily had fallen asleep during a visit to Ethan's cottage, Olivia stayed for tea. They sat on his small porch, watching fireflies emerge. as darkness gathered. "Do you remember what you said to me the night I left?" Olivia asked, her voice quiet but not accusatory. "Every word," Ethan admitted. "I said I was tired of you. That I didn't want you anymore." The memory still made him flinch with shame. "I believed you completely. That's why I could leave without looking back. Because I finally accepted that the man I married had disappeared completely." "He had," Ethan acknowledged. "But losing you and Lily brought him back. Or maybe forced me to become someone better than either version." Olivia was silent for several moments before speaking again. "I've been watching you these past months. Really watching, not just for Lily's sake. I've been trying to determine whether this transformation is genuine or just another performance." "What have you concluded?" Ethan asked, his heart suspended between fear and hope. "That change is possible when the cost of remaining the same becomes unbearable." She turned to face him fully. "I don't know if we can rebuild what we had. That might be asking too much of both of us. But I'm willing to discover whether we can build something new that honors who we've become separately." "I would like that," Ethan said simply, recognizing that elaborate declarations would undermine the authenticity they were carefully cultivating. "However much or little you're willing to explore." 2 weeks later, when Olivia mentioned needing help hanging a large canvas for an upcoming community exhibition, Ethan offered assistance without presumption. They worked side by side in the barn studio, the physical task creating rhythm that made conversation flow more naturally. "This is good," Ethan said, stepping back to study the painting. A landscape that somehow captured both the physical reality of their community and the emotional experience of finding sanctuary. "Really good, Liv. You've reached another level entirely." The nickname slipped out unintentionally, the first time he'd used it since before everything fractured. Olivia noticed but didn't comment, simply adjusting the canvas slightly before responding. Clarity helps. When you're not trying to fit your expression into someone else's expectation, creativity expands. The observation could have been accusatory, but her tone held only the wisdom of experience rather than the sting of resentment. "I restricted you," Ethan acknowledged. "Not intentionally at first, but eventually by design. I convinced myself that your contentment with simplicity somehow limited my potential. When actually, it was the foundation that made achievement possible. We limited each other in different ways," Olivia replied with surprising gentleness. "I used your ambition as reason to defer my own growth. I blamed your success for choices I made about my art, my career, my identity. We both got lost in roles that became prisons rather than expressions. The mutual recognition of responsibility created space between accusation and defense where something new could potentially grow." Later that week, Lily came home from school bursting with excitement about the approaching Harvest Festival. "Dad's helping build the stage," she announced, and Ms. Jensen asked if Mom would organize the student art display. "Can we all go together, please?" The question hung in the air, laden with hope beyond the simple request. Olivia and Ethan exchanged glances, both recognizing the weight of their answer. "I think that would be nice," Olivia said carefully. "As friends." "As family," Lily corrected, her determination creating possibility through sheer force of will. The Harvest Festival transformed the community's central green into a celebration of connection. Food prepared and shared communally, music performed by residents of all ages, children racing between activities with the freedom that comes from being known and protected by an entire community. Ethan, Olivia, and Lily moved through the festival together, but not as a unit, Lily darting ahead to join. Friends, Ethan and Olivia, following at a distance that allowed for both conversation and independence. "She belongs here," Ethan observed, as they watched Lily help younger children with a craft project. "In ways she never did in the city." "We all do," Olivia replied. "There's authenticity here that makes pretense impossible. Status comes from contribution, not consumption." As evening approached, community members gathered on blankets to watch a movie projected onto the side of the barn. Without discussion, Ethan and Olivia found themselves sitting together, Lily nestled between them as stars emerged overhead. "This is like when we used to watch movies on that old projector in our first apartment," Ethan whispered as the film began. "Remember? We'd hang a sheet on the wall because we couldn't afford a proper screen." "Those were good nights," Olivia acknowledged, the memory carrying sweetness untainted by subsequent pain. "The best," Ethan agreed. I just didn't recognize it at the time." Lily fell asleep before the movie ended, her head on Olivia's lap, her feet stretched across Ethan's legs. They sat in comfortable silence as the film concluded and other families began gathering their belongings. "I should carry her home," Ethan offered, carefully lifting their daughter without waking her. The walk to Olivia's cottage happened in companionable quiet, broken only by Lily's soft breathing and the chorus of evening insects. At the door, Ethan transferred Lily into Olivia's arms with practiced coordination that felt like muscle memory reasserting itself. "Thank you for today," he said, stepping back to maintain the respectful distance he'd been careful to preserve. "For letting me be part of it." Olivia studied him in the porch light, her expression thoughtful. "You've changed," she said simply. "Not just your behavior or priorities. Something fundamental." "Losing you and Lily revealed who I was becoming," Ethan replied. "And I couldn't bear to be that person once I saw him clearly." 3 months after Ethan's arrival in the community, as his cottage lease approached its end, he and Olivia sat on her porch after Lily had gone to bed. The conversation they had been circling for weeks could no longer be avoided. "My lease is up next week," he began, uncertainty making his voice uncharacteristically tentative. "I know." Olivia's response revealed nothing of her preference. "I'd like to stay in the community, not to pressure you or force proximity, but because I've found purpose here that I never found in corporate success, the work with the school arts program, the small business mentoring. It matters in ways that acquisitions and expansions never did. And Lily," Olivia added, "she's thrived having you present consistently." "She has. We have." Ethan took a breath before continuing. "I found a small house on the other side of the community, far enough to give you space, close enough to remain present in Lily's life. If that would be acceptable to you." Olivia considered his proposal. "It would. But Ethan, we need to be clear about expectations. I agreeing to your continued presence here doesn't automatically mean reconciliation. I understand. I'm not asking for promises or commitments, just the opportunity to continue proving through consistent action that the change is permanent, not performative." Ethan hesitated before adding, "and perhaps the chance to discover whether we might build something new together, whatever form that might take." "Something new," Olivia repeated thoughtfully. "Not recreating what was, but acknowledging who we've become." "Exactly. With complete honesty and without pressure." The following weekend, Lily helped her father move into the small house. With enthusiastic energy that transformed the task into celebration, Olivia brought lunch, her presence supportive but maintaining careful boundaries. As evening approached, and Lily became occupied arranging her father's books according to her own mysterious system, Ethan and Olivia found themselves alone in the kitchen, unpacking dishes and establishing order. "Thank you," Ethan said, the simple phrase carrying layers of gratitude beyond the day's assistance. "For what, specifically?" Olivia asked, her tone gently teasing in a way that echoed their earlier relationship without demanding its return. "For seeing possibility when you had every reason to see only destruction. For allowing me to know our daughter when I failed so completely as her father. For teaching me, through your example, what integrity looks like when it's lived, rather than discussed." Olivia handed him a stack of plates, their fingers brushing briefly. "We're all works in progress, Ethan. The mistake isn't in failing. It's in refusing to recognize the failure and learn from it. If this story has moved you, if you've found meaning in this journey of loss, recognition, and potential redemption, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Our most profound growth often happens in the aftermath of our greatest mistakes. And your experiences might offer hope to others facing similar challenges. 6 months after Ethan's permanent move to the community, he and Olivia had established a comfortable co-parenting relationship that prioritized Lily's security while allowing space for their individual journeys. They shared meals twice weekly as a family, attended school events together, and gradually relearned how to communicate without the defenses that previous pain had constructed. On an unseasonably warm spring evening, they sat together on the community green after a concert where Lily had performed a painfully earnest recorder solo that had both parents suppressing smiles while applauding enthusiastically. "She gets her musical ability from you," Olivia observed dryly, as Lily ran off to join friends. That's unfair to both of us, Ethan laughed. I seem to recall your singing voice being described as enthusiastic, but unanchored to traditional concepts of key and pitch by your mother at our wedding reception, Olivia finished, the memory bringing a smile rather than pain. Right before she told me I'd need patience to survive marriage to a Harlow man. She wasn't wrong, Ethan acknowledged, his expression growing serious. I often wonder what would have happened if I'd listened to you earlier, recognized what was happening before everything broke. We can't know, Olivia replied. But I've been thinking lately that perhaps the breaking was necessary, not because we deserved the pain, but because we had built patterns that needed complete disruption before true change was possible. Ethan considered this like demolishing a foundation that's fundamentally flawed rather than trying to repair what can't be fixed. Something like that. The roles we established, you building empires, me building home, you conquering markets, me nurturing our child, they seemed complementary but actually divided us in ways that became insurmountable. And now? Ethan asked, the question carefully neutral. Now we're both whole people with independent purposes that might potentially become complementary rather than defining. Olivia turned to face him directly. That's the only way I could ever consider rebuilding what we had, as equal partners, with separate identities, rather than as incomplete halves seeking completion. That's what I want too, Ethan said simply. Not to return to what was, but to create something stronger because it's built on truth rather than expectation. 1 year after Ethan's arrival in Vermont, he and Olivia stood together at Lily's school presentation on community heroes. Their daughter had chosen both parents as her subjects, describing her father's work, establishing a foundation that funded arts, education, and her mother's creation of an inclusive studio program for children with limited access to creative expression. My heroes aren't perfect, Lily concluded with the wisdom children. Sometimes access when adults are still fumbling toward understanding. They made mistakes and hurt each other. But they learned how to be better, how to fix what was broken, and how to build something new that's stronger because it survived breaking. In the audience, Ethan reached for Olivia's hand without calculation or expectation. After a moment's hesitation, her fingers interlaced with his, not a promise of complete restoration, but an acknowledgement of possibility that contained its own kind of hope. Later that evening, as they walked Lily home together, their daughter skipping ahead with the boundless energy of childhood, Olivia broke the comfortable silence between them. I've been thinking about what Lily said today, about building something stronger because it survived breaking. She's wiser than both of us combined, Ethan replied. She is, and she deserves parents who are honest, with her, and with each other. Olivia stopped walking, turning to face him directly. I think I'm ready to try again, Ethan. Not to recreate what we had, but to build something new with complete understanding of what destroyed the original. Ethan felt his heart suspend between beats. Are you sure? There's no rush, no expectation. I'm willing to wait as long as necessary. I'm not sure of the outcome, Olivia clarified. But I'm sure that avoiding the possibility out of fear isn't the example I want to set for our daughter. Courage isn't about certainty. It's about moving forward despite the uncertainty. 2 months later, Ethan and Olivia stood together on the porch of her cottage, now their cottage, since he had moved in cautiously. Both of them establishing clear boundaries and expectations that prioritized honesty over comfort, authenticity over peace. Lily slept inside, secure in the knowledge that her parents were working deliberately to build something sustainable rather than performative. Between them sat the wooden box that had once contained funeral artifacts of their marriage. Olivia's wedding ring, mementos of their early years, evidence of what had been destroyed. But now the box held something different. Seeds from the community garden they had planted together. A sketch Ethan had drawn of Olivia painting, ticket stubs from concerts they had attended as a family, a small stone Lily had found that she declared looks like a heart if you squint and believe hard enough. Not memorials, Olivia had explained when she first showed Ethan the transformed contents. Foundations. Evidence that we're building something intentional rather than automatic. Now, as twilight transformed their community into watercolor impressions of itself, Ethan opened the box carefully, adding a small envelope. What's that? Olivia asked. The deed to the penthouse in the city. I finally sold it. I thought you did that months ago. I transferred ownership to the company initially, but now I've sold it completely and used the proceeds to establish a trust for arts education in underserved communities. Marcus would be appalled, he added with a small smile. Good, Olivia replied, understanding the significance of this final severance from his previous life. What did it feel like? Letting go of that last symbol? Like putting down something heavy I didn't realize I was still carrying. Ethan closed the box carefully. I don't need status symbols to feel successful anymore. Just this. You, Lily. Purpose that matters beyond accumulation. Connection that values authenticity over performance. Olivia leaned against him slightly, the casual contact still new enough to feel deliberate. We're going to make more mistakes, you know. This isn't a fairy tale ending where everything is permanently resolved. I know, but the difference is that now we'll make mistakes together, with awareness rather than avoidance. With the humility to acknowledge them quickly, instead of allowing them to compound. Some things break beyond repair. Others transform through breaking into something stronger at the fractured places. Which category their relationship would ultimately occupy remained uncertain. But uncertainty, they were learning, was the price of authentic connection. The vulnerability of never knowing for certain, but choosing daily to risk anyway. In the quiet Vermont evening, with Lily sleeping peacefully inside and years of intentional work ahead, they sat together in that uncertainty, finding it more honest and ultimately more hopeful than any false certainty they had previously constructed. The wooden box sat between them on the porch swing, no longer a funeral marker for what had been lost, but an archive of what was being carefully built, a record of intention rather than accident, of deliberate choice rather than automatic response, of love that had survived its own destruction and emerged wiser for the breaking. If this story has touched your heart, if you believe in second chances, in the possibility of authentic transformation, in the hope that what breaks can sometimes be rebuilt stronger, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share these stories with others who might need to hear that redemption is possible, though never guaranteed. In the comments below, we'd love to hear your thoughts on what makes relationships truly sustainable beyond the initial romance and attraction. Thank you for joining us for this Cedar Light Love story. Remember, true success isn't measured in acquisitions or achievements, but in the authentic connections we build and maintain through conscious, consistent care. Until next time, may your own journey be filled with wisdom earned through both joy and challenge, and may you always remember what truly matters before it's too late.